Spring into Love with the Breaking Script podcast with Lala and Nini.
This is where we explore the glimmer-filled world of Hallmark movies and the occasional Asian drama.
So let's get this therapeutic adventure started.
Welcome back. I'm Lala, a non-French-speaking French-Canadian.
And I'm Nini, a first-generation ABC, that's American-born Chinese, that speaks broken Chinglish.
And if you're new to the Breaking Script podcast, we are sister-in-laws on a mission to spread joy and glimmers while offering ways to open windows of tolerance through watching Hallmark movies. And we just finished The Way Home Season 2, and Asian dramas are coming up soon.
Like so soon. We have 4 unique segments that give you a guide or review, what we like to call breaking script with the healthy and unhealthy romantic and family relationships, as well as unhealthy and healthy behaviors in these movies. So we always start with a movie summary that has been likened by fans to an audio spa. So even if you haven't had a chance to watch the movie or you don't have access, you can still experience it as if you did watch. So you can follow along with our Boba ratings and our 4 unique segments of breaking script. I have some updates to these segments. I haven't even had a chance to tell Lala. I'm so excited. That way, when you break script with us, you magically turn your Hallmark movie or Asian drama watching experience into a more meaningful self-care session. I'm so excited today, Lala.
Okay.
I don't think you had a chance. We both had some pretty
crazy days.
full days. We're a little trying to stabilize here.
I didn't get a chance. You sent me that video, that Instagram post, right? I did not
get a chance to watch it yet. But I will have to say this. Spring into Love is a Hallmark 2024 spring. It's what they call every spring. Their movies in the spring is called Spring into Love, right? Like January is New Year, New You. What was February? I can't remember.
Well, something about love, yeah.
Love-uary. Countdown to Christmas is what Christmas is called. Christmas in July is what July is called. So anyway, and June is like weddings or something. So Spring into Love, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is like mid-March through May. And it was Lala's idea. I'm still like having the way home withdrawals.
I know. Me too.
It was Lala's idea to exercise our Hallmark movie watching muscles because they've been dormant for a while.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the text that I sent you because that was like, as I was trying to like exercise my Hallmark movie watching muscles, I was like, what are we doing next? And I went into like the Asian drama world because it was a little tough getting back into the Hallmark movie watching.
I'm glad you also felt that way.
Rhythm.
Yeah.
It's still a happy place. I will say, I think this is my mindset. I have to have purpose and meaning. I feel like it's worth it to have more calm entertainment experiences to, have calm atmosphere for our vagus nerve and to find like great background movies, especially for the holiday season. Like,
true.
It's great to have those background movies that are sprinkled with classics that enter into our annual rotation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about you. Are there ones that we reviewed in the fall or Christmas season that you think you'll watch?
Yes. Okay, I definitely think I'll watch 3 Wise Men and a Baby.
Yes, that's our number one.
And there is one that it's honestly, it's slipping out of my mind. Like I can't go, but I know that there's one that we reviewed that I said I really liked and that it would go into the rotation. Like I have a vivid memory of saying that. But now
to figure out remember which one.
Thankfully, I actually have I keep all of our review notes in the same document. So like I can just go through
it.
Yeah.
Is it a Biltmore Christmas? I don't think it was.
No,
I don't think you liked that one. That was me.
You loved that one because you love It's a Wonderful Life.
Was it Time for Him to Come Home for Christmas? That was a Tyler Hynes one.
It might be that one.
I'm not sure though. Might be that or one. 5-Star Christmas.
Oh, no, you know what it was?
What?
It was Take Me Back for Christmas.
Really?
Although now that I'm remembering how hard I cried, at that one point.
Probably not.
Maybe not.
Because you watched it
To
like on a lunch break.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Anyways,
Anyway,
it's
I mean, it's worth it though, right? Because we found ones that will have
true.
be like in this annual rotation. Three Wise
Yes.
Men and a Baby and Time for Him to Come Home for Christmas. I actually had my teenagers tell me that, like, oh, this is going to enter our annual rotation, right? Like, we kick off the Christmas season by watching Elf and White Christmas.
Of course.
And now it's Three Wise Men and a Baby
Yeah.
in that it has an honored position as our top three. So that's what makes it worth it. But I will say this was like today's blind date book club is a very much a background one, and it
Mm,
inspired a new saying before our first segment. We have 4 segments. And the first segment was called What's Love Got to Do with It? It was the only one because I didn't feel like there was like an Asian saying to go along with it. It was the
okay.
only segment that didn't have like an Asian word
Mm-hmm.
before it. I've been using like, like AIYA or AIGOO or omo or the last one is Jia You. This one inspired I. What's love got to do with it? Do you know what that means? Do you know what I is?
No.
Oh my goodness. Where were you in the Asian Pride days? All the kids knew what I because it's the word for love in Mandarin, but it's
Mm.
also the word for like. So there
Oh.
isn't really a word for like they'll use that as love in in Chinese dramas, Taiwanese dramas. But I can also say that I like something and use that same word. So
Hmm.
loose translation would be like to love or not to love. Like, why
Oh,
am I doing that?
interesting.
That's what inspired this. Like,
I
why
like
am I doing
that.
this? Do I love this? I don't know. And so my brain was like, okay, we said we're gonna do Asian dramas next. And you know what I forgot? This has
What?
been like how this podcast coming up with like the idea and the timing of things has worked out so perfectly. Like I'm usually a planner, but things have worked out the timing so much better than I could plan. May is AAPI month.
Oh,
I know. And I
that
was like,
works
oh,
perfectly.
exactly. And so I was like, after exercising our Hallmark movie watching muscles out of dormancy, we need something a little more like pick me up before we go back to Christmas in July. So I feel like I can't really I don't know if I could do Love After Divorce or like a dating
Mm.
reality show. Like maybe we
Yeah.
can one day, Singles Inferno. I don't know.
Hmm.
By the way,
Yes.
Jerome and Benita are still together. Is that the
Hallelujah.
cutest? That's from Love After Divorce, guys. It's on Netflix.
Guys, it is so good. You need to watch it. Seriously. So good.
Right? Jerome is a former K-pop star.
Oh, I'm so happy.
I think they're the cutest. They even have like what do you call it? A celebrity name, Janita. They have like a Janita merch line. I thought that was adorable. I just looked them up yesterday because I was like, what are we gonna do in May? Okay. So, in honor of the fact that Crazy Rich Asians was like the Asian movie that brought back kind of like kicked off this, I don't know what you call it, like steady stream of Asian American on the
Hmm.
screen.
Hmm.
Um, I felt like we should do a Crazy Rich Asians type reality show. So that's what I texted you. I felt like it was kind of more your vibe. It's
Totally.
called Super Rich in Korea, which I'm a little skeptical. I wish you could see Lala's face. It just lit up.
I love it.
We needed a happy place. What's that? What's that one on Amazon that we watched of the queen, that wealthy family that like built that mansion, that castle? Oh my
Oh, Queen of
gosh.
Versailles.
Oh my gosh, you guys, Queen of Versailles, if you haven't seen it, it's on Amazon Prime,
So
right?
good.
So good.
Yes. Okay, I'm
Um,
like literally like going looking at this
so I
Instagram.
don't know though if Super Rich in Korea is like the Korean response to Bling Empire, which got canceled after a couple seasons. It was a little disappointing, but I did watch Bling Empire. I was just curious. So Super Rich in Korea, it's it's like so we're gonna be doing commentary on K-pop stars commentary on these crazy rich Asians.
Which I love the commentary aspect. Like
Too.
you don't realize how much you miss that in American television until you
Oh,
watch
I
like
never thought
a
about that.
specifically in a reality TV show. Like half the
Yes!
fun is the commentary.
Totally.
And
Yes.
like my husband and I are laughing so hard at everyone's reaction because it's the same reaction that you're having. Like you have to experience the commentary.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's like
it's so
so
good.
validating.
It's so
Okay,
good.
so this is my idea, which we
Okay.
still have to discuss. You guys, we haven't discussed this before hitting record today, so this is Lala's first time hearing this.
It's true.
Riveting podcast material. Um, I'm thinking we do this Crazy Rich Asians reality show, and
Hmm.
then we're gonna watch a Korean drama that is based on what are called chaebols. Like there's just these the richest families in Korea like always remain the richest families in Korea. Like they're known as wealthy
Interesting.
families, so they're wealthy kids. So there's this, it's a little intense, but there's a couple different ones that we could pick from. But I was thinking there's one called Heirs. Um, I'm not really sure where we're gonna watch it yet. I
Okay.
think it's
Wait.
still on
And
Netflix.
this is
Mhm.
reality?
No, this is like a full-on K-drama.
Sweet. Okay.
And the reason why is because one of the actors in Heirs is also in what is considered like um there's this whole genre of Asian dramas called flower boys. Have you heard of this term before?
No, Flower Boys.
I remember when I
Okay.
first started watching, I was married at the time. And my husband would come in and be like, "What are you watching? And why are these men so feminine?" And I was like, "Because they're flower
Flower
boys." Like
Boys,
a lot,
duh.
a lot of it, and they're not gay. They're very manly. Like they have a huge, following like of a very feminine girls, like girls fangirl over them. Celebrity status for Korean drama, like Taiwanese drama, like K-pop stars is a different
Mhm.
level than like Western, like they fear for their lives because it's like the fandom is so intense.
Oh my gosh.
But there are these flower boys. Literally the first one I would love to introduce you to is called Boys Over Flowers. I haven't decided. It's either
Okay.
Boys Over Flowers or You're Beautiful.
Okay.
Boys Over Flowers is about these four like wealthy boys that are in high school, and it's super intense because like the wealthiest kid ends up falling in love with like a not wealthy girl, like her
Mm.
family's like below poverty line. Anyways, that's Boys Over Flowers, and it gets so intense. So it's either that or, you ready for this?
Yes.
You can combine flower boys with gender benders. So that's a genre in Asian dramas. And it's not an LGBTQ thing. Okay. I just have to emphasize. There are ones that do, but it's more like Mrs. Doubtfire, but not the elderly
Lady, man
seniors.
dress.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
It's
Okay.
like young kids, right? So like for instance, in You're Beautiful, it's about a K-pop band. And one of the band members has a twin sister that he never knew. He got separated
Okay.
from, and the twin boy in this K-pop band has to go off. I can't remember what he has to do. And so they sneak in the sister as the boy, and nobody in the group knows. But this
No.
girl falls in love with the band leader.
Oh, so this is basically uh what she's the man.
Like that, yes. But then
Gotcha.
there's a Taiwanese version of the same exact. So you'll find this in Asian dramas. Like there'll be a Korean version and a Taiwanese version, and now there's
Gotcha.
like Thai
And
version and Tagalog version. Like, anyways,
Mm,
like every country has their own, like they're up and
that's
coming
so
now. So
interesting.
that's what I'm thinking because I need you to understand the Piggy Bunny reference, and I need
Okay.
something that's like comedic
Yeah.
because Boys Over Flowers and Airs are like more intense.
Okay.
These are like older Asian dramas. The current ones right now on Netflix are like Doctor Slump, which is about doctors. That was the one I think I mentioned on the podcast where I was struggling and then I watched a K-drama. I don't know if I said this on the podcast or
No.
if it was just with a friend. There was one weekend I was like, my nervous system and my body was telling me to slow down. And I was like, I don't need to
Mm.
slow down. I was like, clearly I need to slow down. And then I watched this Netflix K-drama about these doctors who were burnt out. And the psychologist is telling them they need to slow down. And I was like, okay, got it. Got the
Got
message.
it. That's
Heard
funny.
10-4. Anyway, that's enough for our intro today. of what's coming after our spring into love, April. April showers shall bring May flowers of Asian dramas. Does that sound good?
Great.
But I do feel like at some point we need a separate episode of like the way home theories, like the way home wrap up. Other podcasts are doing
I
that 'cause
agree.
the theories have not stopped.
I agree. I'm still not over. I'm
And
not over it, and I'm sad that that Sunday night show was gone.
yes, we actually did. I watched When Calls the Heart with my son actually because my daughter has a friend who wants to watch it with her, so she's making her wait.
Ah.
I don't think she can wait though. But I was surprised, like, first of all, in the interviews and like shout out Team Nathan is getting like all the feels because it's clear she's heading back to him. But like the seasons, did you watch the season where you weren't sure if it was gonna be like Team Nathan or Team Lucas?
No, I'm still like, I understand what's happening, but I'm still like early, like season 4.
I mean, we waited like 2 seasons for them to like kiss, for her to pick, for her to kiss him, for them to get engaged. Like, but going into this season, I don't know what it is about season 11. It's like right off the bat, it's like, okay, it's obvious they're gonna get together. I don't feel like we're gonna have to wait till the last episode for a kiss. Like, I feel like it's coming sooner. Anyways, so much to discuss about. I'll probably review, like, give you like a couple lines at the beginning of each podcast episode because I will be watching One Called the Heart with my kids because there needs to be something to fill the way home
The way home void. And
like there's a hole.
it is a big void.
I know, it's so sad. So anyways, so many and more interviews. Like the way home executives and writers and creators and actors like are doing more interviews and like there's all these like new theories coming out. So we'll wait a few weeks and we'll probably have to do that. But today's episode is dedicated to the Hardys and the Chessies. Those are the When Calls the Heart fans and Chesapeake Shore fans. Should we just dive into it?
Let's do it.
Wait, don't touch that button. You won't want to skip this part of our podcast today if you normally do. Hi, this is Nini here, and I think I was a little ornery when writing today's summary because there's a lot more sarcasm or critiquing commentary than usual. I just couldn't help myself. It has been more than a minute since I've written one of these summaries, and if you started listening to our podcast for the Way Home episodes, those audio spa episode recaps were read from the Hallmark Channel's website, with some light off-the-cuff edits from me. But for all the other Hallmark movies we've broken script with, I have been writing most of the summaries with a little help from AI. But today's movie, for some reason, required more sarcasm and therefore no AI help. So this is the part of the episode that hopefully gives you those ASMR chill vibes or just helps with chores, work, or time pass quicker if that's what you needed today. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Nini's summary of today's movie that premiered April 6th on the Hallmark Channel as a part of the new 2024 Spring into Love Hallmark movies. It's about a bookstore owner who finds love and direction in life after agreeing to review a famous author's new novel in her blind date with a book club, starring Erin Krakow as Meg Tompkins and Robert Buckley as Graham Sterling. I present to you this summary of Blind Date Book Club. This cozy bookstore-based rom-com, emphasis on the rom, not so much com, but then if you think about it too much, it's not enough chemistry of a rom either. Anyways, I digress. Stay focused. This cozy bookstore made-for-TV movie opens with a montage of books being wrapped with plain brown paper and a couple of descriptions written like desperate, dangerous, and satisfying, or an emotional roller coaster, or smart and funny. You might even cry. Then you have a couple of beautiful, quaint waterfront town and landscape scenery shots that are teased. Then we follow Meg on a bicycle with a basket of her wrapped books to a bookstore called Mimi's Book Corner, right next to Jacob's Olive Oil, by the way, where we meet Meg's pregnant and token black friend Alice, who is also her employee at said bookstore named after Meg's mother, Mimi. Meg is telling Alice that her aunt is coming into town to tell her something important, but hasn't shared what it is yet. They banter a bit back and forth about how her aunt hasn't been back in 3 years to see out the changes and she's afraid she won't like them. Alice talks up all the positive changes they've made, like Apple Pay or a new paint, or the biggest change, which is getting the bookstore the most attention, the book club, of course. And then light debate ensues about if it should be blind date with a book club, as Meg likes it, or blind date book club, as it's come to be known. Alice points out it's the reason the bookstore is thriving, because Meg made reading social and fun and brought in a new crowd, and it's why NPR's Raina Bream wants to interview Meg. Meg corrects Alice's description of thriving to, "You mean surviving," just before Raina shows up early for their NPR interview. Cut to meeting our opposite lead in a busy downtown corporate building setting. Graham Sterling, who is called G by his friend/agent and also his darling sister, is a successful YA author of a cash cow series entitled Parachutes for Beginners. But now he's trying to pitch a new book, maybe series, that his agent is calling too mature and for women because it reads like a romance. Graham protests it's not a romance, it's really just a historical epic that happens to center around a love story. Both his agent and publisher have read it and said it's fine, they like it, but not enough to publish it. And that's it, no other details besides the concern about shelfability. Terrence is trying to encourage Graham to focus and not procrastinate on book number 8 of Parachute for Beginners. It's already been announced to be on bookstore shelves within weeks, but Graham is uninspired to complete it. Discouraged and somewhat confused at how he could be such a successful, lucrative author and yet fail at producing another written masterpiece with different characters and a different story. He calls the one he will confide in throughout the next hour of made-for-TV movie. His sister Lizzie, who lives in Connecticut, picks up G's phone call during the busy mom of young kids chaos transition that occurs between the end of dinner and beginning of bedtime. It sounds like a bad time, but she assures them it's normal. They have the most precious phone conversation. Graham seems restless and jaded and says he wants to write books that are considered a great piece of literature that matters, and she tells him what he writes does matter and reminds him who he is and that he should write what matters to him. She assures him that he's got this, and he assures her she does too, as you hear the ruckus his 2 nieces are making in the background around bedtime. When Graham hangs up, he happens to be tuned into the middle of the NPR radio show with Raina interviewing Meg about the blind date with the book club and the lively parties that accompanies these book clubs that she's so defensive about not being parties that a cop shuts down. I don't even know how she got there. Anyways, Graham vehemently agrees with Meg's sentiments that a book should not be judged by its cover or what genre or age group it's written for or what shelf it should be on. As he's in the car listening to this radio interview, he answers some of Raina's questions with the same answer Meg gives and decides he's going to Nantucket as Dylan Turner to try to get Meg to wrap his book for the next blind date with the book club. On the actual radio show recorded live in Mimi's Book Corner, Raina rattles off what she calls a broad, tempting description that reads like, "You won't expect these chalk lines." Meg adds, "Or we'll send you to far-flung places." And Raina spots another wrapped book that reads, "Passion, adventure, you'll be swept away." Meg is defensive that the focus is on the books when Raina wants Meg to admit that these descriptions read like dating profiles. Nini here again. Which ones read like dating profiles, Raina? The unexpected chalk lines? Like, is that the dating profile of a murderer? Or is the "we'll send you to far-flung places" that could read like another red flag? You can use your own imagination, or don't. Moving on, staying focused. The rest of this movie can be summarized in a unique, cute, meet cute, 3 book clubs, a date and a half, and then Dylan realizes he doesn't have enough lived experience to write his historic epic romance. Sprinkle in a kiss. Meg agonizes over whether or not she will keep the bookstore or go back to doing real estate in Boston. Graham finishes book number 8. It's a success. Spoiler alert, Meg ends up keeping the bookstore because she feels like it matters and she's already doing something that matters. And this cozy made-for-TV bookstore rom-com ends with the signature Hallmark kiss that we see through the bookstore window. Wait, did you want more? If you don't need more, skip to the breaking script segments. But for those that want more, let's follow the outline I just rattled off. The meet cute at the Nantucket Ferry pickup point sign. It's beautiful scenery. pretty sure it's not Nantucket because I'm 99% sure that this was filmed in BC, Canada. But it looks really similar to the areas of BC where Chesapeake Shores and It Was Always You was filmed. In fact, you could have told me it was the same ferry drop-off and pickup point that was in It Was Always You, and I could have believed you. Anyways, again, digressing. Stay focused, Nini. Anyway, there's a sign at this pier/waterfront where Meg is on the phone with her aunt, letting her know she's waiting at the ferry terminal pickup point when Graham passes her as he's arriving and doesn't know where to go. A random French woman who doesn't speak any English asks Meg to take a picture of her with her family in front of the Welcome to Nantucket sign. But Graham is in the frame, so Meg has to ask this stranger to step aside. But he ends up assisting, if you can call it that, as Meg takes a picture by suggesting that she shouldn't cut off their feet in the picture. Then the French woman says, "Your turn," to Meg, in French, and offers or gently forces Graham and Meg to take a couple pictures together, and they don't know how to correct her. And she even asks Graham to put his arm around Meg under the Nantucket sign, as she's mistaken that they're together. Anyway, after awkward giggles, brief banter, and smiles, they part ways when Meg's Aunt Renee arrives. Then, of course, since Graham traveled to Nantucket specifically to check out the Blind Date book club, Meg and Graham end up bumping into each other again, literally as Meg is carrying a box of books in the bookstore. This time they meet officially, and he introduces himself as Dylan Turner. When he confirms with Meg that she's the woman who was interviewed on NPR, he says he appreciates that she wants to promote underappreciated books and is interested in the book club. He ends up buying the 2 wrapped Blind Date with a book books, and as he's checking out, he works in that he's a local/visiting author with a self-published book that he would like to be wrapped for the next book club. Meg, annoyed, retorts that she already had 3 other self-published authors contact her for the same thing after the radio interview, and she's already chosen books for the next few months, so he can wait his turn and see if he's still around for that. He convinces her to at least read his book himself and give him some feedback. Then, finally, Aunt Renee tells Meg that she either wants Meg to buy her out or they can sell Mimi's book corner together. She wants to sell within 1 to 2 months so she can travel. Meg affirms she doesn't want her aunt to feel tied down because the bookstore was her mom's passion project, and Aunt Renee doesn't want Meg to be tied down if she doesn't want to either. Meg couldn't sleep that night after that discussion, so she ends up reading Dylan Turner's historical epic romance book. Next day, Graham gets a phone call from Terrence, who's putting pressure on him as his agent and sometimes friend for that book number 8, and offers to get him a therapist for writer's block. He calls Nantucket and the romance book a creative distraction. Graham, still procrastinating, goes back to Mimi's book corner to find out that Meg actually read his book but turned it down for the book club. It just doesn't have enough depth, she says. She finally gives in when her friend Alice overhears that Dylan is actually the famous Graham Sterling who authored the popular YA series she's a huge fan of. Alice is an aspiring writer who's halfway through writing her own book and hoping to finish before her baby is born. This leads us past the meet cute to the 3 book clubs and a date and a half. Meg invites Graham to the next book club that also involves flower arranging. That's when we meet the token Asian couple, who is also the only couple we meet who obviously met through the Blind Date with the book club, which is what drew that attention that changed the publicized name to Blind Date Book Club. Anyway, this Asian couple connected over the shared commonality of the love of wedding tea cakes, which are also known as Mexican or Italian wedding cookies, or at least that's what they look like. I'm sorry, but feels super random. Anywho, Graham makes it through his first flower arrangement book club and gives the arrangement he made to Meg as she's cleaning up. He really appreciates her honest feedback of his historical epic literature, and he offers again to pay her for her honest feedback. She won't take his money, so he offers to do a book signing at her bookstore for his Nantucket fans instead. So in between the first and second Blind Date with the book clubs, she has already told him he's lost sight of what inspires him and connected him to his readers originally, the Graham that started it all. And before that, Graham has an adorable phone call with his sister. She's enjoying her alone time with peace and quiet and frozen pizza because her husband took their daughters to a movie. So Graham and his sister Lizzie are so cute they end up whispering on the phone to extend her quiet enjoyment. And she reminds him that what he's done with his YA books do matter, not just to the teens, but to the moms of those teens too. She even compares him to Judy Blume. After they hang up, we see Graham ordering something off his phone that looks kind of like Instacart, and the next morning his sister opens up her front door to an open basket of muffins and drinks to go. Meanwhile, Meg meets up with an old friend and colleague from her real estate days in Boston and explains her dilemma of having to decide between selling the bookstore and returning to real estate in Boston, or take the risk to stay in a barely survival mode as the bookstore's sole owner. I'm really not sure why those are the only two options, but here we are. Meg takes Graham to her favorite spot on the island, a gazebo in the water. And that's where she shares her honest feedback of Dylan's debut novel, and they look into each other's eyes, and those looks linger a little longer. Her honest feedback starts by saying that Huxley, the main character from the Parachute for Beginners series, feels like a real person, like he's been written from lived experiences, while Dylan's character does not. If you're not picking it up yet, she's implying that Graham hasn't lived a historic epic romance, or a romance at all. He takes it in and really appreciates this information, and that's the end of what I'm calling the half date, because it wasn't officially a date. It was set up as a let me get feedback from you date. Later that night is the second book club, which featured flights of wine from Italy, but we don't get to experience any of the book discussion because before any of that even happens, Graham seems disappointed that there's food served with the wine, because he wanted an excuse to ask Meg out for dinner after book club. That is what I would consider the first date. Unbeknownst to Meg, Graham had already made dinner reservations at one of the most popular restaurants in Nantucket, and he even reserved the seats at the bar where there's the best view of the water. This impresses Meg, and they enjoy their date, complete with lobster ice cream. You heard that right. Let us know if you've tried that before and what it tastes like. Anyways, the date ends with Graham walking Meg home, and if you look closely, you can see snow, because if you listen to some interviews or catch some of the circulating articles, there was a freak snowstorm during the filming of this movie in BC, Canada. Anyway, it ends with a sweet and unexpected mid-movie kiss. Of course, the third and final book club is where they are discussing Dylan Turner's book with the Dylan/Graham present, but only Meg and Alice know who he is. Raina from NPR shows up as a follow-up to her initial radio show with Meg because she wants to record a book club live. Meg is especially nervous that the discussion will result in bad reviews that will be publicized on NPR and give Graham a bad rap or Dylan a bad rap. In said book club, Graham tries to calm Meg's nerves, and yet before the book club begins, he gets a phone call from his agent saying they need pages from book number 8 next week, or the publisher's lawyers are saying they want their advance back. So with everyone on edge, everyone is seated seminar style as Alice moderates the book club. It starts off rough and gets even rougher. I won't give you quotes now because I definitely will share them in our third segment of Breaking Script, the AIGOO OWT Poodles already, where we discuss plot holes, continuity issues, and what we didn't like. Anyway, it just escalates to a mess of anxiety and chaos, and then during the break, Asian guy recognizes Graham Sterling from the back cover of one of the Parachute series books, and Raina presses in the conversation, and Graham accidentally reveals that he is the Dylan Turner of the self-published book that they're reviewing this blind date with a book club. Meg gets flustered, and this book club ends abruptly with Meg publicly announcing that she's selling the bookstore and asks everyone to leave immediately, even before they get to the planned painting activity with this book. She even wants Graham to leave and not to help her clean up. Aunt Renee finally gets ready to leave, and at the ferry terminal, she gives Meg a parting gift and tells her that she's already living her mom's dream of gathering people, and that matters. On a phone call with his sister Lizzie, Graham tells her that he's found his passion again and is almost done with book number 8, and he's doing stellar. And there's something that someone that he wants to talk to her about. A girl. And guess who it is? Later, looking through that parting gift of a photo album of Meg's mom and Aunt Renee's grand opening of Mimi's Book Corner, and of course other old photos that has Meg reflecting, she even takes the photo album with her to her favorite gazebo on the water at the end of a pier, and I'm pretty sure that's where and when she decides to keep the bookstore. Graham gets his pages to the publisher, and his agent says he even cried at the end with the part about the apple, and Graham tells him it was inspired by an aspiring writer he met. He means Alice. Dylan realizes he doesn't have enough lived experience to write his historical epic romance, and he puts it on the back burner and says he can even add more books to the series for Huxley of the Parachute for Beginners. That brings us to the end of the story with the meet cute 3 book clubs and a date and a half. So that just leaves the full circle moment of Graham and Meg rendezvousing again at Mimi's book corner, where Graham tells Meg he told his nieces about her and they said she's the GOAT, explains to Meg that means greatest of all time, and she tells him the bookstore makes her happy and he does too, and they neatly wrap things up with a kiss that zooms out through the bookstore window, and that is a wrap on the Blind Date Book Club.
Okay, now is a part of our episode where we give the Blind Date Book Club a rating out of 10 bobas. And we have 4 categories. Wow, I haven't done this in a while. 4 categories. We have writing out of 10 bobas, characters out of 10 bobas, how funny it was out of 10 bobas, and an overall rating. Okay, let's start with the first one. Nini, what did you give the writing of this first this movie?
My gut instinct at first was to give it a 5 because it was like middle of the road, but then I was like, maybe I should be generous and give it like a 6 because it wasn't like horrible middle of the road. Like, I know
I'm
middle
so
of the
glad.
road isn't horrible, but anyways, 5 or 6. Where were you?
I was a 6. I'm a 6. Literally, and I think I feel bad for this movie because I feel like this is truly going to reflect the fact that we just ended The Way Home.
It is. It is.
And The Way Home is stunning in comparison.
It's not fair.
It's not
Yeah.
fair. So
Yeah.
I have to remember, like, I kept trying to, like, the thing is I actually really liked this movie.
I agree.
And I did feel like it was a background / middle of the road movie, but it still was a 6. Okay. Characters though, because you're a big Erin Krakow fan.
Yeah. I mean, I got excited about this movie because of the lead actors. I love Erin Krakow and most of the things that she's in. And Robert Buckley was my favorite male romantic interest that they ended Chesapeake Shores with. He played like this billionaire and he was super quirky and hilarious. He's very comedic. Like, so I think I was expecting more. I think, unfortunately, I feel like maybe I was in a bad mood now that I'm looking at it. I was like, oh, I feel bad. I gave them a 3. Because they were forgettable, because I expected more, because listen,
You're not wrong.
Because of the fact that I love Erin Krakow so much, I was like, this isn't fair to Erin Krakow or Robert Buckley. She and Tyler Hynes and It Was Always You, like, knocked it out of the ballpark. I expected her and Robert Buckley to do the same thing. They were forgettable. I kept forgetting her name.
Oh, the same. I literally, and I also was confused because he had 2 names.
Yes.
And yeah.
Same. So like I have this whole segment that really should be in AIGOO OWT Poodles, which is our 3rd segment, but I have to put it here because that segment is too long, because literally with his 2 names, I watched it twice and I still couldn't remember either of his names, even though I knew they called him G, which stood out because I was like, this feels weird. Why are you calling him G? And I still couldn't remember. And I only remembered like the 3rd time I watched because, and when I say 3rd time, we'll get to that with the Way with the Poodles already. It's not really because I kept either like falling asleep or getting distracted. Like, anyway, it wasn't keeping my attention. The last name, so it's Graham Sterling is his name. The last name Sterling reminded me of the more unforgettable character, also who played a writer's block character. This man's name was Sterling Masters, where his best friend Alex, played by Tyler Hynes, was the ghostwriter in this movie that played opposite of Kelly Pickler. That's one we haven't seen, which we will. It's called Mistletoe Secret.
Okay.
So that was disappointing because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't. It just is making me think of like other things. So like I showed up for Erin Krakow because last year her Hallmark movie, because she only does like one Hallmark movie, I feel like a year, because she also does When Calls the Heart. Last year was Wedding Cottage with Brendan Penny, who's also from Chesapeake Shores. Their chemistry and character development, even though I didn't like that movie as much, blew this one out of the water. And now like I love that. Now I love Wedding Cottage so much more because I was like, wait. So like even so in between watching this, even my 14-year-old who was watching Blind Date Book Club with me wanted to watch Wedding Cottage instead of Blind Date Book Club because he saw like, I can't remember why we started watching clips of it. Oh, because I think it was after When Calls the Heart or something. I don't know. Anyways, Nothing touches the untouchable of Krakow Hines' magic chemistry from It Was Always You. It was disappointing. That's enough on the characters. Shall we move on?
Yeah, I also gave them a 5. This movie was sweet. The characters were cute. There was definitely chemistry, but they were kind of forgettable. I definitely agree with that. Okay, how funny was it to you?
I mean, in an interview, Erin Krakow said she wanted it to be like 90s rom-com feels. And maybe it was, but it wasn't a comedy.
No.
Like,
I gave it a 1. There was no, it wasn't, I didn't laugh. Like, I laughed
didn't laugh
more
at
at the
all.
commercials.
Yeah, this is like while you're sipping your boba, did you crack a smile? This isn't like I spit out my bobas. Like, it was a 3 for me because I know they tried to I feel like the actors tried to like on the spot improvise like more humor into it.
Okay.
Because it wasn't in the writing. Like, that's just who they are. Those two are hilarious, I'm sure, in person. Like, anyways, it was just disappointing. Let's go. Overall.
Okay. Overall, what did you give this?
It was a meh 7.
That is so funny. I gave it a 7 as well.
It was a great calm background movie where you don't care what happens.
Yes.
But like you could miss entire chunks of the movie and still know what happens, but like I didn't care what happened. And this one I couldn't really follow.
I felt bad for how much I just wasn't like into this movie. So then I kept comparing it to The Way Home. So I upped it to a 7 because I have to think about comparing it to the other movies that we watched, not against The Way Home.
100%.
So I really liked the concept of this movie, right?
Same.
But I wish there was more. It was very like surface level and a little predictable, not in a terrible way, but it was just a little too on the nose. So,
that's
okay,
funny,
that is
because that's literally what I wrote. I literally wrote, there's no personal nostalgia, so it's not a strong 7. And if you make me think too hard, it'll be a 6.
Oh my gosh, you're so right.
The Way Homies, you've ruined me. Okay. Should we get to the breakdown? Let's break script.
Let's do it.
With Blind Date Book Club. Our first segment is What's Love Got to Do with It? This is where we talk about glimmers and what we love. We break down romantic and family relationships. You guys, I couldn't even hardly remember the names. I was so uninspired. I didn't even feel like breaking script. Like, even a terrible movie makes you want to rant, right?
You're right.
I don't know. After The Way, I realized like, oh my gosh, The Way Home, like I wanted to write things down like right after I watched it, and I couldn't stop. And this one I was like, eh.
Yeah, I get that. 100%.
So it wasn't until the 3rd time I watched it where I was like, oh, I have a barely glimmer. Because the first 2 times I couldn't make it through the entire movie. The 3rd time I was like, oh, remember Lala had a dream of owning a bookstore and gift wrapping.
That is literally
that should have been an obvious glimmer, because then I'm going to open the cafe it's attached to.
Exactly.
But this was a reminder. I didn't have any feels. I didn't love the aesthetics of the bookstore. We'll revisit that in the AIGOO OWT Poodles already.
We are literally on the same wavelength right now.
Okay, you go.
Okay. So I also started with, this movie has a lot of things that I should love. Living by the water.
Yes.
Because I love the water. Like it's my dream to live by the water.
It's Nantucket, or supposed to be Nantucket. Yeah.
Okay. Bookstores and real estate.
Exactly.
And I should be very connected, but I wasn't. But those were glimmers, but they just were not strong enough. They were not strong enough. But okay, so I've said this before. Love to own and run a bookstore. There's nothing cozier to me. Like, I love books, being surrounded by them. There's nothing like the smell of paper and coffee to me. Totally. Like, that just smells so good. I'm also getting my real estate license. So obviously there was a connection. Okay. The only other glimmer that I had is that the book club sounds so fun to me. Like,
yes,
the fact I have always, if life would slow down, I would love to join a book club. But
In person. I've never done an in-person one.
Well, this one was not just in person. They also had activities, gardening, painting.
It was a full-on party when she's like, don't call it a party. I'm like, girl, it's what? Like you did pottery? You did
Yes.
like, yes, 100%.
So that probably was the walking away. I'm like, man, I'd love to be in a book club like that. And that is probably my number one glimmer. Aside from that, there was nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even if we can like look at the relationships, like the only relationship that I really felt was worth noting was the relationship between Graham and his sister. Like it was very sweet.
Exactly.
And the nieces, but like every character was pretty pleasant to like deal with. Everyone had some type of aspiration, but that was it.
There wasn't much depth to it. That's literally what I wrote too. Like literally any glimmers. So I had a couple glimmers, but only because it was loosely connected to The Way Home or It Was Always You. So like obviously the location being Nantucket, Massachusetts, it made me wonder, is this where they filmed Chesapeake Shores and It Was Always You and The Way Home? Like love the location, love the scenery. I said the same thing, like the brother and sister relationship was really cute, whispering on the phone and Instacarting food, but again, don't make me think too hard because then it ends up in the AIGOO OWT Poodles segment. And the sister's name is Lizzie, which was Erin Krakow's name on It Was Always You. Her name was Elizabeth, but Tyler Hines' character David called her Lizzie. Again, another like very, very loosely, you have to think too hard to get to this glimmer. And then come on, one of the first lines in this movie is shrimp better than lobster? Which, if you're going to boiling crab or like the Viet Cajun shrimp boils, yes, the shrimp is definitely more worth it than the lobster because the lobster doesn't soak up any of the sauce.
You're right.
That's where my brain goes. So food and glimmers is always going to be a thing for Nini. But then my mind wanders because I'm like, oh, I really want to try that lobster tower in Toronto. I can't remember the name of the restaurant. And then they had lobster ice cream, and I'm like, I don't know that I like really want it, but I'm so curious to know what it tastes like.
Yes.
And then again, this shows up again in the Way with Poodles, but it made me think, okay, when we did our Boba Break episodes for Countdown to Christmas, we did it different. But Boba Breaks was supposed to be to review shows that we don't get to do a full episode of Breaking Script with. We're just pulling out shows where there's places we want to visit or eat for our Breaking Bread with Lala and Nini show one day. And I haven't mentioned it yet, but the first one to inspire Boba Breaks was the hot chocolate in Winter in Vale. That's like a legit hot chocolate that people travel to have in Vale. That is also a Tyler Hines movie that I have been saving. So now Nantucket and lobster ice cream, but when I looked it up, Nantucket is not known for lobster ice cream. It's Bar Harbor, Maine. But I had to look it up.
It's a real thing?
Lobster ice cream is a real thing. They say it just tastes buttery, like sweet, buttery, creamy, unless you until you get to like the chunks of lobster. So like I'm really curious now.
But then it made me dream of lobsters.
And then it reminded me of the Lobster Social from The Way Home season 1. And that is the end of my glimmers. Oh, actually, one more. I was wondering, did you get a chance to watch the Facebook Live of Robert and Erin?
No.
Okay, so I texted, we're going to have to try this for a different movie. I was curious if the way you rate or break script with a Hallmark movie changes the way you appreciate it if you listen or watch to some interviews or Facebook Lives that the actors or other podcasts do with cast members.
I think it definitely would probably change my thoughts.
Because Robert Buckley, apparently when they were filming, Erin was like, he just was constantly looking at like what food they're going to eat next.
That's
Like,
hilarious.
and if they were at even like at a Wendy's, because it was the only place to eat, he would have to get everything on the menu that only exists in British Columbia, because when is the next time you're going to be back here? Because he has like huge FOMO. And I was like, oh my gosh, are we the same person, Rob
That's
Buckley?
hilarious.
Like, I need to know, did you really eat the lobster ice cream? And what did you think? And what else did you eat there that I need to eat? Because literally all my family members and friends that go to Taiwan are like, that's all they do is like, while you're eating a meal, you're talking about what you're going to eat at the
Eat
next
next.
meal. Like, that's all that
so
you do in
funny.
Taiwan, because there's just not enough time to eat everything.
Mm.
So that's it. I mean, the meet cute is sort of cute, but then it ends up in the way with the poodles too. But I thought it was unique. I could be so wrong, but I don't think I've seen that done before in a Hallmark movie, where it's like you met because a stranger was reciprocating and forced you to be in a picture together. But
Yeah,
I
that
felt
was
like,
kind of cute.
again, Oi with the poodles. I don't know. And I felt nothing for any of the other relationships. So I don't feel like I can talk about it. Like the aunt niece relationship, the friend relationships, like there just
Agreed.
wasn't, there was
There's
no
no depth,
backstories.
no backstories. There's no history, no context really. Because
And
that aunt comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. And if you listen to the dialogue too closely, you're like, it's not bad, but it doesn't make sense, actually.
Exactly.
So let's move on to the next segment. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is the AIYA, Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls, which usually we talk about unhealthy behaviors and coping mechanisms. And this is a segment where sometimes the Omo NARDAR, the narcissistic behavior radar, comes out. But it doesn't today because, again, it just didn't inspire me. There wasn't enough. I will say this. This isn't, there's never blanket statements here, right? Everyone's situation is different. But I will say that a lot of survivors of narcissistic relationships, when they go into a relationship that's healthy, it feels boring.
Mm.
And so I was like, oh, well, I guess maybe these are relatively healthy people that we're seeing. It's just not good TV. So the moral of the story is we need to portray healthy, but then give us some not healthy.
Right?
To like color it up a little.
I know. I literally like have one thing, and it
Okay,
was,
tell me.
I had to really dig deep for this because
Yes.
there was nothing. All that I wrote was, in real life, do you think that romance happened so quickly? Like, how long was he actually there? And I
But
will
could
say
you
there
even
was,
call it a romance? Like,
I don't know, but there was this, like, there was a natural comfortability that they really, I felt
yeah.
like was great, because you felt, as a viewer, I felt that, like, even when he
Yeah.
offered to like clean up or stay, and that's something that you do, like the way that he did it, I feel like that's something that you do if you're dating or if you have a relationship,
Because it
or
was
something
really
like that.
familiar.
It felt very familiar. So
Yeah.
and then I was just like, wait, I lost track. Like, how long how long
How many days?
has he been here? um so I mean, typical Hallmark, we know that this is like, the trope of Hallmark is like, it's like a week and we're having a wedding.
Yeah. Well, thank God it wasn't that. They
I
have
know.
progressed. They haven't been doing that as much. The only thing that I have here is that he made reservations before he even asked her out on a first date, quote unquote date. Like, was that too presumptuous? Like, how would you feel if someone did that? Is that a yay or a nay? Like,
Oh, I think that's a yay, because I would feel like they actually took the time, like made it. I would much rather that opposed to them ask me out and then they're like winging it, because it doesn't feel like they put any thought or effort into it. So it felt like this was intentional. So
that's
I
good.
don't know.
Well,
And
and
also,
also,
yeah,
no, you go.
I was gonna say, I married, like, your brother is very much like that, right? Like, and he would be the
But
type to like pick
yeah,
the
before
place
he
and book
even
it. Exactly, because he'd be
before he
worried
even
it'd
asked
get
you.
booked or something. So
But that's the thing. So that's my comment. Is it's a different mindset if you're living in a city like Toronto, which you do, or New York or LA, in Kansas City, where it's not so busy. Like, it's not as much
Okay,
of a concern,
I
which
see
we
what
are
you're
becoming a
saying.
foodie town. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So like, I'm
Yes.
guessing Nantucket, which rivals Martha's Vineyard, like, okay. Yeah, I get you making reservations, like, but I just wasn't sure. Like, anyway, I don't have anything else here
No.
because it's really all with the Oi with the Poodles already.
Yep.
Shall we move on to the
Let's do
AIGOO
it.
Oi with the Poodles already? This is where we talk about plot holes, continuity issues, the wait, what, and what we didn't like. Would you like to
Okay.
kiss us off here?
Yes. Okay. At 24 minutes and 45 seconds.
I
Okay.
love it. So specific.
Meg is lying in bed and she's kind of restless, like she can't sleep and it's dark. Okay. And then she gets a text and her phone, it beeps. So she looks at her phone and the time is 7:10 p.m.
Wait, it is? I missed that. You're so
I
good.
literally checked just before we got on because I was like, wait, did I see that right? It is who goes to bed at 7:10? Like my dinner has not even digested at that time.
But is that the part where she says, "Okay, I'm up"?
Yes.
I'm so confused.
That's what I was confused because I feel like they must have messed that up because it
Yeah.
looked like it was supposed to be late at night and then she's up and then she makes a tea and that's when she reads his book. But it's 7:10 p.m., a reasonable hour to read a book and to be up.
Yeah.
Like,
Very
you know what I mean?
reasonable.
And then I was like, wait, is this 7 a.m.? Like, did she stay up all night?
All night. That doesn't make sense
No.
either.
So I'm honestly going to I want to call this out as just a continuity error that someone
Yeah.
forgot to superimpose the right time. 11:30, even
Yeah.
10:30. Gosh, maybe even
Whoever was
9:30.
doing
but
dailies that day.
7:10.
Yeah.
7:10.
Right.
That is unrealistic. Okay. Let's talk about the bookstore because both you and I have are saying something.
Yes.
It just did not give me the feels.
No.
The
You know
ideal
what?
bookstore that I want to own is
Yes.
from You've Got Mail, Meg Ryan's bookshop that she owns. That is the ideal cozy bookshop, and that is not what we got. We got a house that was converted poorly into a bookstore.
I would agree. I remember I had to go back and look at our notes because Falling for Vermont was also about a writer who
Yes.
had writer's block. Well, then she had amnesia. And there was a bookstore there. And I remember having, much in that Oi with the Poodle segment about like the posters, but at least it looked like a bookstore and felt professional. It felt like a bookstore.
Yes.
This one, and bless my father, I love him, but we have very different taste and styles of how we decorate. And he wouldn't decorate everything in this way, but in his room, there's literally not an inch of bare wall. Lala knows because she has to stay in that room when she comes to visit.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's very cluttered. And I'm not like uber minimalistic, but I do like simple, clean, more of a minimalistic vibe aesthetically. This bookstore, I know you're going for cozy, but like what? I didn't understand their nooks that looked like it was possibly for children, but not fully children friendly because you had entire piles of books. Like, how are you selling these books? Because they're just piles. Sometimes the book spine wasn't even showing.
I know.
It was the wrong way. They were all in different angles. Like, I don't understand. Like, literally on one of the bookshelves, there were bulb ornaments in front of the books.
Yeah, it was too, I don't know what they were going for, but like even there was too much open space.
That too.
Like there wasn't even like I didn't really see a couch or I
Like
mean, I think there was, but like
nooks.
cozy nooks, like it really like looked like a home that was converted to be a bookstore, which I think that's what it was, but it just like, it did not read the way that I think the initial, I just don't feel like it came across very well.
Yeah. It was the vibes, the aesthetic, the bookstore, and the wardrobe. Can we talk about the wardrobe? Like,
oh, poor Erin.
okay, I don't think you loved it as much, but her wardrobe and makeup, and It Was Always You was my number one favorite.
Okay.
I would say The second one would be The Wedding Cottage. I didn't love her hair color in The Wedding Cottage, but I loved
Okay.
her wardrobe in The Wedding Cottage. Like, it was just more, I don't know, and perhaps it's her profession. Like, in The
Mm.
Wedding Cottage, she was a wedding planner, but she looked like a slick, like, New York successful wedding planner.
Mm.
This one I was like, I'm confused. I don't know what you're going for, because Nantucket is usually like beachy, laid back, like, I don't know. I needed more, and it didn't give it to me.
I'm totally with you. It was not, I did not like it. And I just felt in
It
her
was
hair, I don't know, like I just didn't like what they were doing to her hair.
I would agree. Although but she's so beautiful.
She is.
I don't know. I
Okay.
let me this is go ahead. You go. Do more.
I'll just give my last two. Um, actually three. They're quick. I
Okay.
wish we had more backstory on Meg and her life.
Yes.
Even
Yes.
Graham, again, very middle of the road characters. I also wish they leaned more into the funny side of the whole dating slash blind date. I
Yes,
feel like that was a missed
exactly.
opportunity. And like,
Huge.
even it would have been funny if like she was in denial, but there was all these couples that were coming.
Yes, show us more couples. I totally have that in my
Yeah, like as
next
if it
segment.
was like couples were using it
Mhm.
as a dating tool, but she was just like not, like they
Yes.
could have leaned into that, but we only see one couple and it was just a missed opportunity. Okay,
I
my
agree.
last thing was just cringe and it just felt like Hallmark trying to bring relevant terms to
Oh no.
it was goat.
I know.
And
There
then
was a lot of cringe. Yeah.
Graham was like, "You're the goat." And then he explained
He
it.
had to mansplain it, yeah.
Yeah, he was like, "The greatest of all time." And I'm like,
Why are we doing this?
yeah, gross. Yeah, those to me were just, yeah, not so great.
What I found really interesting here is that literally the lines
Mm.
that most people were saying about Dylan Turner's debut book is so
Yeah.
fitting to describe
The movie?
the movie. Listen, I'm going to read them to you. Are you ready?
Yes, this is
I'm
good.
going to quote Meg first.
Okay.
The love story. There just wasn't enough depth in the relationship to warrant them falling in love. And he says, that is broad and devastatingly more specific. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's literally how my daughter
This
felt. So
so
she
funny.
was watching it because I let her watch Blind Date Book Club because she wasn't watching When Calls the Heart. She's waiting for
Mm.
her friend to watch with her. The first words out of her mouth when it ended was, that was so disappointing and not a great Hallmark movie. There's so
You
many that are
said
so much
that?
better. Yes, and she was so excited because she's a huge When Calls the Heart fan. So Hallmark was
Oh my
really smart to
gosh.
do that. Of like, she's like, I wish we would have watched Legends of the Lost Locket instead, which I wasn't really excited about, but it's on Hallmark Movies now and it doesn't have commercials and it's also When Calls the Heart actors, but she
Mm.
loves Erin Krakow. Not only that, but everything the book club said about Dylan Turner's debut
You're
book,
right. You're so right.
things like the prose is poetic, but the insight is just skin deep. What you were saying about missed opportunities, I feel like that's what this. And then what's her name? Raina says, an American classic? This is not. I don't know what it's trying to say. The motivation was flat. These are direct quotes from the lines.
This movie is a
Again,
self-fulfilling prophecy.
even more accurate. Are you ready?
Yes.
Been done before, not refreshing. These are lines from the movies, guys. Okay, more. There's more. Listen to this. I didn't feel any connection to his journey or hers. That's a direct
Wow.
quote from the Flip guide. Do kids these days still call Filipinos Flip? Is that a thing? Is that a Canadian thing?
No.
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 That was me growing up in my teen years, the very unique decade of Asian pride, where we wrote Asian pride on everything. We called Filipinos flips. So the Flip girl says, because they weren't vulnerable enough. I mean, it's good writing, and I get where the author was trying to go, but he didn't get there. What?
That
Okay.
is so funny.
I can't even. I had to look to see if a man wrote the script for this movie, but no, it was a woman. But what's funnier is the name of the woman who played the French lady that, we have to give
Yeah.
credit for the meet cute. Her
Yeah.
name is Julie Roy. I had a
Oh,
good laugh. If you know, you know.
if you know,
Moving
you
on.
know. That's funny.
Let's back up these quotes with facts, right? Like, I felt nothing for the aunt and niece relationship.
No.
Why is Meg's friend Alice like, it's just this random token Black girl who's pregnant? I have no connection to how they're friends, what
Yeah.
Alice's story is. Like, there's nothing. And also, like, why in this entire cast is there a Black friend and an Asian couple? Like,
Mm.
why are you doing, is that really, and I've never been to Nantucket, so I don't know, but is that what the population of Nantucket is like? Like, I mean, it's fine if their population is 90% white. Like, you don't have to give us the token Black girl and Asian couple if it doesn't fit, especially
Mm.
because they're all so forgettable. Like, I don't know any of their stories. And Meg says that she was raised by an amazing village of people.
Who?
I felt none of that.
I know.
Like, who was her village of people?
Who are the
Because all we met is
people?
her one friend. And then this Asian couple is talking about wedding cookies or wedding tea cakes. Sorry. Okay. Lala, you have a lot of Filipino friends. Like, and maybe they're not Filipino. Sorry. They could be a different Pacific Islander. I could be wrong. I had to look that up because I know for Taiwanese, do you know this? Like, when you get engaged, so Taiwanese have like an engagement ceremony. It's
Okay.
very like almost like a mini wedding ceremony where at the engagement ceremony, um, because it's like the girl's family is giving her away to the boy's family.
Oh, okay.
So the bride's family brings they call them wedding cookies, but it's more like a very dense pastry. It's like
Okay.
large. And so in my very couple minutes of research, because I was like, what are wedding tea? Like, is that a Pacific Islander thing? Like, what are wedding tea cakes or cookies? Like, is there someone else that has a tradition like the Taiwanese do? All I could find when I looked it up is they're either known as like Mexican or Italian wedding cookies that are covered in like powdered sugar.
I just thought tea cakes are, I thought were a British thing. And so I thought it was just tea cakes for a
The
wedding.
the only thing that I could come up with is maybe they're Hawaiian. And
Okay.
Hawaiians have a thing that's very similar to the Taiwanese wedding cookie cake thing. And they call it a pake.
Cake? That's hilarious.
But do you know what's really funny? Do you
What?
remember? Because I just recently watched Drop Dead Diva for the first time. But that's what's her name's friend starts a bakery with the pake because it's a pie cake.
Oh my gosh, you're right. That's
Right?
hilarious.
I
Yeah.
know. Anyways, this is whatever. Let's move on. I've spent too much time on that. What was Graham Sterling trying to send to his sister? Like, was that Instacart? I feel like they were trying to, like, was it Instacart or Uber or DoorDash? Like, he was sending her food. He was ordering it the night before. It got there the next morning. But was an open basket
I
of
was gonna say
muffins.
that would not pass standards. Like,
Literally, I looked at my son and I was like, that is not sanitary.
no.
Not sanitary. Do not eat those. I don't understand. And then it was really cute that they were whispering and they're so supportive of one another, but also super awkward. Like, why are they whispering? And the kisses lacked chemistry. Like, if Huxley Allen's like the books are based on this like character who's, it's about coming of age and they say it's
Yeah.
like his embarrassing world of first, then let's do like a first kiss bit. Like, that's what
Mm.
my Jia You fighting happily ever after ends up being, is like what this movie should have been. But we'll get there. Why in these book clubs. I understand that each book club event is different, right?
Right.
But I don't think I could arrange flowers or like learn how to arrange flowers and discuss the book at the same time. And then the next one, they're just drinking wine. Like that was the event, was wine flights. But we didn't get to see them discussing books. So we really only saw the discussing books for two, the flower arranging one and Dylan Turner's books, right?
Right.
Like, I don't know. Just, I wrote down the same things that you did. It's just my last one is, oh no, I have two more. Very quick.
Okay.
He took her out for dinner, right? Because that was the whole bit of like, there was wine and food. And he's like, oh, but I was hoping you're still hungry so I could take you out to dinner. That's the dinner reservations where they ended up having lobster ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the dinner? Where's the rest of the dinner? And why are you getting lobster ice cream first? Like, give me something that Nantucket is known for.
My interpretation was that was after dinner. That was like the end.
But they had just walked in and walked into the bar.
Wasn't there a cut scene? No? Wow. That was the first thing that they ate. Maybe that was their amuse-bouche.
Oh, I could be right. The lobster. That's a nice amuse-bouche. Anyways, last thing. Blind date. The whole blind date with a book club or blind date book club, I get it. I had issues with. It was so confusing. Like, I even heard a Deck the Hallmark preview show where they preview like the spring shows that are coming up, and they were describing like what the premise of it was. And I was still confused. Like, I still had to rewind and re-listen to many seconds of their mansplaining, and I still didn't get it. But then I realized,
it's funny.
I think this is a thing. I think there are bookstores that do this, and I just didn't know.
I have seen this. I have seen blind date with a book, but not a book club. So it's like,
yes,
I have definitely seen
So you can go into bookstores and see the wrapped books. Okay.
They'll give you a description, and then, or I've seen it as a subscription, like an order. You can like sign up online and do it.
Yes, blind date with a book, but it's not a club. Yeah. Okay. But why can't she do real estate and own a bookstore? Which leads me to our fourth and last segment of Jia You Fighting Happily Ever After. If you're new to the podcast, Jia You is like add more fuel, like energy. It's like how we encourage people in Mandarin, and then fighting is how you encourage in Korean world. This is usually what we think happens after the movie and who we are rooting for, but I was so uninspired that this segment for me became, let's talk about what the blind date book club movie should have been.
Oh, okay.
Well, do you want to go first of what you have? Did you have something different?
I just had something very small. I said Graham's sister decides to move to Nantucket to be closer to Graham and Meg, because Graham and Meg are getting married, and he's going to leave New York and he's going to write in beautiful Nantucket. They obviously get married, and Meg gets the family that she's always wanted. That's it. The end. Uninspiring.
So uninspired.
Okay, what's this?
I wanted to talk about what the blind date book club should have been.
Okay.
This is what I think, because if I'm not mistaken, Meg wraps the books. She wraps 2 books every week, right? So like one book is discussed on Tuesday and the next book is discussed on Thursday. Is that kind of like how you took it?
Yes.
Okay. I think what it should have been is you wrap more books. You only wrap 2 of each book. And the 2 people that pick up the same book go on a date. That's what blind date book club means to me.
You're right. 100%.
What? I'm so confused. And anyway, also in this world where people are multi-passionate and require multiple streams of income to survive, her aunt should have given her more notice than 1 or 2 months. I feel like that's a huge life change. That should have been in AIYA with the Poodles already. It bled over into this segment because she could have had more time to build up her real estate business or other passive
Yeah.
incomes. You can keep both because you'll probably need the passive incomes to keep up with a brick and mortar bookstore. Like, right?
Yes. Honestly, I mean,
So
that was a little, yeah, like that in reality, I don't think you'd spring that on somebody so last minute.
exactly. And then it was the same with what you were saying earlier of like, there should have been more couples besides that one Asian couple. That was a huge missed opportunity. Like, there would have been a huge comedic factor if you would have had like couples like you know who I miss, which
Who?
I don't know if you've seen him a lot. Nelson Wong plays a character Kenny in all of Ron Oliver's Hallmark movies.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
same Asian guy. His name is Kenny in every Hallmark movie.
That's funny.
He was also in It Was Always You. He was the mailman that fell in love with the sister.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway, I feel like you need more characters. Like, you need to have caricatures of these couples. That's what brings that in. And then to give like more depth to the friendships, like the agent should have been a childhood friend of Graham Sterling because Huxley was a coming of age character based on Graham's life, right? So then
Yeah.
give me some of those stories so that I care more. And then same
Yeah.
with like Meg and her friends, like I need something, or like it doesn't have to be a lot, it doesn't have to take a lot of time. Like at least mention them.
Yeah.
It was
And
unnecessary.
last thing that I forgot to is like, I wish we knew about the apple.
Yes.
Why is the
What?
apple so significant? They never tell you. I think there has to be somewhere in the script that they talk about the apple, but it got cut out because that was such a big like a theme in his books. And even at the end, when he's talking to his like publisher, there's an apple on the table, and it's like, and the guy's like, yeah, and you end with the apple, and it's about friendship. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you,
Yes.
how? Share an apple with a friend and have a friend forever or something? I'm like, what is this
How does that
nonsense?
happen?
Exactly.
Um, you know, I feel like perhaps this was a fall movie and it didn't
Oh,
get booked for fall, so then they had to edit or change all those out. Maybe it was affected by the strike. Like, who knows? That's what I think. I have no final thoughts or favorite quotes. Like,
I
it's
do have a
just,
favorite quote.
oh, you do?
I do. It's at the end, and it's after Meg tells Graham that she is going to keep the bookstore, and she says, I always wanted to do something that mattered. I just didn't realize I was already doing it.
Oh. But I wish I knew more of like, how does this
Right?
matter to you? Let's talk about what we're doing in the next 2 weeks that we have to look forward to. Hopefully this will bring back our Hallmark movie watching muscles. Do you remember what next week is?
No.
Have you not had a Tyler Hines withdrawal? It's been like way too long without Tyler Hines.
Oh, yeah.
Shifting gears will be
Oh my
next
gosh.
week.
Hey,
even though it
but here's the
premiered
thing.
already.
I don't get these advertisements. So like I'm always in the
That's
dark.
right.
You're my advertisement. So
Well, it already premiered, but we're putting it in for next week because I think it's either that or we can do Legends of the Lost Locket. That's what actually is premiering on the W for next week. Or you can watch the pre-recorded Shifting Gears. Well, we can discuss. So next
okay.
week when you come back, it's either going to be Shifting Gears or Legend of the Lost Locket. Because we've gone too long without Tyler Hines, although I'm pretty sure he gets mentioned on almost every episode anyway for some reason. And the week after that, I will have to say, while watching Blind Date Book Club, falling in love with Niagara was like the previews were on during the commercials. And Nana, my daughter's first reaction was, oh, that looks like so much fun. Can we watch it? So that will be
so
next.
fun.
Anyway, things to look forward to.
Well, thanks for breaking script with us. Please share this episode on your socials and tag at the Breaking Script Podcast. Follow and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And if you haven't yet, please rate and review in Apple Podcasts so we can spread more Hallmark glimmers with the world. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Jia You.